What's up, bro? What's up, bro?
Not much. Just freezing my butt off here in Kentucky,
That's where you're at right now,
Frankfurt. It's 8 degrees right
Frank
now, or 6 degrees, something like that.
Frankfurt. Okay.
So what is
I
what's
think yesterday morning when I got up,
one
it
degrees?
was probably
It's 1 degrees
how
outside. One,
1 degree.
1 degrees.
One.
Yep.
All right. Um, I got up yesterday morning and it was what 17. So
Yeah.
you got me beat.
Well, it's been down to like
But yeah.
-4, -7 at times, and of course, it'll be 1 degrees, but it'll probably say feels like -6 or something like that. You know what I mean? If there's just a slight
Right.
bit of wind, whoo, no,
It's it's cold.
yeah,
It's cold all across the country.
yes, it is.
Well, here we are. So we are embarking on this adventure called the Squirrel's Nest.
That's what we're calling it.
Calling it the Squirrel's Nest, and kind of got that from my business that I created about a year ago. Um, I decided that I was going to take what I'd been doing for a couple of decades and teaching other people how to do, specifically high school students, working with video, audio, and all that kind of fun stuff. And as we were kind of venturing into, right, everybody looking at doing a side gig or whatever, right? Um, you and I have done different side businesses over the several years, right?
I've done many. Some made money, some didn't.
Um,
Some did well, some did
right.
okay, and then some did nothing. But
Yeah,
all
same.
along the learned a lot of stuff along the way, of course. So I don't regret any of it.
Yeah. Well, I been teaching TV and video, for a while, and as I look around, I see a lot of my students actually making a living with some of the stuff they learned in my classes, and I just keep plugging along every day and thinking, I need to do something. And last year, just decided I'm gonna do something. So started playing around with ideas for a company, creating an LLC, and I came up with Blind Squirrel Productions. And there's an adage, right, or an old saying, and as a coach, so I coach, right, have for several decades. But there's a saying that you know, even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while, and I've heard
Mhm.
it also as even a blind dog will find a bone. But I thought blind squirrel sounded a little bit better, and that's what I went with. Created my logo, right, right there, right, and then kind of started to launch. That was about a year ago. Done a little bit here or there over the years. I've helped some small businesses produce commercials and some other things, and spend most of my time teaching kids how to do what we're doing right now. But I've never really done it for myself. I've maintained, YouTube channels and websites for the programs at the high schools that I work at, where we're posting student work and um, gotten really good at doing live streaming and things like that. So decided to go with Blind Squirrel Productions. And then as you and I have had conversations just on the phone, we said, shoot, let's let's have a conversation and record it, right? Let's put it on video. And we can, as time goes on, invite our kids on, we can invite friends on. And the Squirrel's Nest, which is what we're kind of embarking on tonight, is going to be a space for us to really get together and just kind of catch up with what's going on with the week and talk about things that are happening in the world. We're talking today on the day after the second inauguration of President Trump. And I know both of us are pretty optimistic that economically, we hope things are going to improve, right?
They have to. I mean, the whole world's hoping for some relief right now. So yeah, I mean, it's you can plug away all you
So,
plug away, but it does. It's hard for everybody. So yeah.
right. So I see the squirrel's nest as being a place where we can get together, even if it's just you and I, once a week and catch up. Because we've been brothers for a long time. I think pretty close to like 58 years or something like that, isn't it? How
Yeah,
long? How old are you
I'm
now, man?
57, 57,
Okay,
and the older I get,
so
life is starting to get a little too serious, I think. The older we get, life starts getting pretty serious, and I'm still that goofy idiot that really would wants to not let that happen. I can't resist a lot of it, but still, maybe we can tell some stories and share some experience. Maybe bring some family and friends from our past in to tell a lot of fun stories, and maybe it'll inspire those that watch us to share some of their own.
I hope. I mean, you're going to be checking in right now, probably from all over the place. A lot of times in hotel rooms. I'm actually in my house in my little studio that I've got set up. Over the years, I've probably acquired more camera equipment and other gear than I really need. Kind of geek out on a lot of that stuff. I use a lot of it for the work I do at school and my teaching assignment there. But really, I want to do more for me. And as I'm getting older, I just turned 60 in August,
Mhm.
so I'm 60, and we're expecting grandchild number 10 by June, which blows me away. It was just yesterday that I remember going to my daughter's graduations, and we're doing this for really our posterity, right? We're doing it for our kids. Want to be able to get together, and we're going to be goofy and stupid. And if our kids want to watch it, then fantastic. But I know I personally have maintained some YouTube channels and, like I said, other things, but always for my work environment. It's always for school, nothing ever for me. So Blind Squirrel Productions, that's my thing. And we're going to do the Squirrel's Nest, even if it's just you and I that are on here when we do this. The plan is, or the goal, right, is to try to do this once a week if we can.
And I'm as green as they come, so I'm gonna learn as I go.
I'm not green anymore. I'm gray,
Yeah,
but you know,
a little bit of salt and pepper starting to creep into me now, just a little bit. So you can't see it yet,
mine's
but
mine's already there.
it's there.
See that? Mine's there, but I still have it. I mean, you still have your hair too, so that's a good
Mhm.
thing. You know, I
Yeah,
go to get haircuts, and they ask me, "How do you want your haircut?" And I'm like, "Yeah, just make me look good." But it ain't going anywhere. It might be turning gray, but it's not falling out.
yeah. Well, my wife cuts my hair, and she has for the last 30 something years. So lucky me.
Well, she does a good job. She used to cut mine when we lived closer together.
That's the first thing she did when she was pregnant with Lindsay. She went to school to be a cosmetologist. Figured, she might, if anything, she has a skill for life. Um, she thought maybe she would take it, to the workplace. She never did, but it's
Right.
it's how much money have I saved by not having to pay for haircuts over the years? Well worth it.
Probably
Grandma, it was grandma's gift
20
to
bucks
her. Sending her to that school is a
every
gift from her grandma.
at least 20 bucks every time,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Something more, like
Minimum.
30 bucks, I think, at least.
Yeah, or depends really, I guess, on where you're going,
Now I
right?
just have to give her a kiss and sweep up the floor, and I'm good.
Yeah. Is that normally sweeping up the floor or
That's my
sweeping up
job.
your hair that
I
falls
get
on
my
the
hair
floor?
cut, and I have to sweep the floor. So she
Okay.
cuts it, I clean
Yeah,
it up. It's like the cook that
it's a good
doesn't.
trade-off.
It's like the cook that doesn't clean the dishes. Someone else does.
Yeah, it's a good trade-off.
Yeah, hey, I'm all for
So,
it.
we were chatting earlier, right? About kind of where we're at. And for me, I'm looking at a long career in education. Again, having done a bunch of other things over the course of time, but um, as a baseball coach, something that I've enjoyed doing. But what I teach in the classroom too is, not that bad, but there's frustrations that come with it. And I know one of the things for me, I've seen people that are, kind of right around my age who have started to retire, right, from teaching. And so when people find out actually how old I am, they're like, "Well, when are you going to be done?" And my response always is, "I don't know. I might have a few more years." Um, I robbed the cradle when I got married, the second time, and I could work until my wife's ready to retire, but then I'd be really stinking old.
Okay, De
And
Niro.
so, yeah, that's not me. But so I don't know. I was thinking about it the other day, and again, if this is mostly going to be right for our family, for our kids, I sat down and came up with a 5-year plan. So my goal, I think, is by the time I'm 65, I want to be out of the classroom. I'm not going to retire because I'm going to work. I enjoy doing this kind of stuff. I like tinkering around with my cameras and being creative in that regard.
Well, you're creating
So
courses that you're looking to share with the public and right put out there as a right.
I am, yeah. I've been doing it for years now in public education. So I create classes and redesign them all the time, right, for the courses that I'm in. As a matter of fact, I was working on some stuff today, but that's for my employer and then for my students. But yeah, I'm creating some stuff that I'm going to be able to put out there, and hopefully, people are going to want to consume it. So, that's kind of my retirement plan. My retirement plan is to not, stop working. I mean, I don't know what that is. I don't think you do either, right? I
No,
mean,
no, never will.
you're
But
not
I'm
going to
on.
want to.
I too am on the 5 year plan. I'll be
Yeah.
62 in 5 years. So 2030 is going to be my time where I'm going to take a look at my life and go, okay, it's time to be home full time and, start taking my retirement and go do something else. Um, just to keep me home, keep me with the wife, keep me around the kids and the grandkids. Shoot, how many grandkids am I going to have in 5 years? Right now I have five. What's my guess?
5, yeah.
Five
We're gonna
grandkids.
be at 10.
Five grandkids. I might have five more grandkids in 5 years.
Yeah.
It may,
No, I mean,
that's
we're gonna
probably
be at
my,
10
that
by
might be my prediction.
we're
Five
gonna be at
years,
10
five more
by
grandkids.
June.
Yeah.
First part of June, we'll have number 10, and, I know, that, a couple of my daughters are trying, and, as I've talked, they've said in the next few years, man, we might even be able to have more than, where we're at right now.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yep.
Um,
Life is gonna go. It's the clock is moving and nobody's slowing down. So thank goodness, they're going at it. Kids are progressing, becoming parents
so
themselves, and it's a great thing to see.
let's kind of lay a foundation, I guess, for what we're doing. Now, our kids kind of know, right, where we've been, what we've done, um, or do they? I mean, I was thinking, when we were with our parents, back in what was it when we were together? Was it Thanksgiving
We were
when
all
we were
together during Thanksgiving. Yes.
at Thanksgiving, right?
Mhm.
So I was thinking at that time, yeah, it was Thanksgiving because we took that family picture, right? And we had everybody there, in
Because of
terms of
that
our
trip, I've
siblings,
got
except
myself a
for
new drone.
Kathy. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
We'll talk about
Because
that later.
I brought mine. I brought my toys, right? I brought my drone.
Hmm.
Used one of them to take our family photo, which was kind of cool. Um, I wish we would have had a little more daylight, a little more time, because I probably could have got more pictures with it, of everybody together. But just trying to get everybody in the front of the house was a task or a chore. And so, as I came home from that, though, I was thinking, there's really a lot that we haven't had an opportunity to document about our parents, and about their story. So it was that was one of the things too that got me thinking about us getting together and doing this. I want to be able to share with my kids, some of the things that we've done over the course of our lives. Because when we do get together as family and we sit around, we start telling stories. It seems like we tell the same stories over and over again, but our kids, they just sit around and kind of eat it up.
Well, I would say next week we invite Dad to Skype in with us, and he can tell us his story.
Well, and that's part of what I wanna do with this
Yeah,
too, because we've talked about it. I wanna get our parents on, and have them tell their stories. I know, earlier in the year when mom and dad were here visiting us, we sat, at lunch, and dad told a couple stories that I had never heard before, and I wanna get that recorded. So, dad, if you see this before we actually get you on, I want you to tell the story again of your trip going from San Diego to Florida, and how the Navy had given you money to get there, but you pocketed it and you hitchhiked all the way. Some of the things that he shared during that little exchange
there's a
was
whole
really
Forrest
fun.
Gump movie in that whole story.
Oh my gosh, we were
There
just sitting
literally is
there
a Forrest Gump story in that whole movie in that whole story.
just enthralled. I know, my wife, she was like, "Man, have you ever heard that before?" And I said, "I may have, but I don't remember."
Yeah,
And it's funny because sometimes I'll be talking to my daughters, and we'll be talking about things that I did or things that we did, and they go, "You did what?" Right? They kind of
yeah.
look at me and go, "No, you didn't do that." Um, right? And so it got me thinking that those are things that we need to make sure that we get down, we get them recorded. One of the things that I personally am going to do is kind of a video diary for my girls. A couple of my girls gave me a book that basically was asking me to write in a journal and sort of detail for them certain aspects of my life. And
My kids gave
I've
me
done a lot
something
of
similar
writing
to
in my
that
life,
too.
but what's that?
My kids gave me something similar to that as well.
Yeah, I just don't, I don't have time to sit down and write, but I can get in front of the camera and we can do this, and I can share those stories, and I can use some of that as a foundation for, being able to put that down so that my kids can actually see it and revisit it. And, um, you know, some of it I wanna do too before, I don't think I'm gonna lose my mind anytime soon, but you never know. So I want to try to get as much documented as possible. With our parents now being in their early 80s, right? We got to find a way to document some of this. And if we can get mom and dad on camera, I think that would be even better. It's one thing to have it in a written form and to be able to read, some of their words or words that someone else dictated and put down. I think that's kind of cool. But with that, you have to, you have to do what I kind of would tell my students when I was teaching English and we were reading literature, right? One of the reasons sometimes that a book that's made into a movie winds up having the book be better than the movie is that you're the one that's creating those images. So, like when we read about some of our, ancestors, even our grandfather, right, our dad's dad. Um, we don't see too many pictures. We've got a few, but we have to create kind of an image, right, of what those people were like and who they were. Um, I don't want my kids to have to do that, so that's why I'm doing this, right? They can see me, they can actually see my face. I was going through and scanning some old baby pictures, and one of my daughters was sending pictures of me. So a few years back, Stephanie had a bunch of our old photos scanned, and she put them into a share folder. I was looking at it the other day. There's over 3,000 pictures. Some of them are, some that she took out of my photo albums that I had when I was in elementary school and then in high school. and I want to I want to be able to put some of those right, sort of in a sequential order of, hey, this is what I looked like when I was young or when I was your age, and as some of my grandsons now are starting to get a little bit older, I'm looking at that and comparing those pictures with pictures of me, and I'm pretty proud because I'm going, hey, some right, I can see some of Grandpa in some of these boys. So anyway, I think it's cool. I'm excited about doing this and being able to document, for future generations some of the things that we're going to be doing, and hopefully, right, it's not just us talking about us, but as we move forward and we move past this first episode, which I know is going to totally suck, and we can start talking about some of the things that are important to us.
So, I mean, what's on your mind today? I mean, I know what's on my mind. There's a lot going on in the
Dude,
world right now, especially where we grew up. We obviously grew up in
absolutely.
North Hollywood, California, and
With
we, you know, we
Los Angeles area, right? For anybody that's
we
listening that doesn't
we
know
were
you and our family,
never
right?
in the house. We were
No,
always everywhere in Southern California was basically our playground everywhere, and now
we didn't have cell phones.
the place is burning.
Remember, we'd go through the neighborhood and we'd look for where all the bikes were at, laying in the front yard. And that's where we knew where all of our friends were.
That's right. And
But
then
yeah, you're right. We used to remember we'd go from North Hollywood, which is actually in the San Fernando Valley. It's just over the Hollywood Hills. From the Hollywood sign, we grew up about what 4 miles, 4.5 miles from Universal Studios,
you go south on
just to
Laurel
the
Canyon
the
through the mountains, and you're in Beverly Hills.
Yeah, right. And so it wasn't, really, it's not that far in terms of miles. But we used to hang out right down in Westwood. On the weekends, we'd go to Westwood Village down around UCLA. Remember when we went to the beach?
Right near
We would take the
Rosemary.
bus, if you remember, right? Initially, before we could even drive, we'd go get on the bus right there, just up the street from our house. We'd take that to the freeway. You'd change buses and take that down to Sunset Boulevard, get off at Sunset, jump on another bus, and then that would dump us out at the beach, or we'd get off and take another transfer and wind up making our way down to Santa Monica. And that whole route now, from some of the things that I've seen, is just gone. It's just
Gone,
devastated.
gone,
Unbelievable.
gone. We actually know people that have been affected by the fires. Um, I know my good buddy Mark. Obviously he's good buddies with you too. My best friend growing up.
He was a roommate of mine at one point in time. Hey, Mark.
His in-laws were neighbors with Mel Gibson there in Zuma, and friends with their family, and all their houses are completely gone, 100% gone. Um, which is a sad thing. Beautiful homes, just beautiful area. It's just
I can imagine. I
I just
remember.
recently talked to my kids about it. I said, remember the Malibu property there where you guys used to play up on the hills and all that stuff, and just you're kind of exploring. They're like, yeah, that place was fun. I go, yeah, it's not there anymore. It's gone. They're like, they were kind of devastated to hear that.
It's crazy.
It's really sad.
Yeah, having moved away several decades ago. I mean, we go back every once in a while and visit. I remember when the last time we went back, we went to Magic Mountain or to Universal Studios and some of those places. My kids just kind of go, "Whoa, whoa, this is where you grew up." Okay, it's kind of cool, but at the same time, kind of scary. And I remember going right onto Sunset Boulevard and going to Carney's and some of those places. And so, I'm hearing reports of, just I remember hearing one report that said, all right, Sunset's just gone. And Sunset's it's a long street. But I know closer to the beach and, all those properties that are in the Pacific Palisades, it's just sad. And then to see that, parts of Palos Verdes is sliding into the ocean, um, I feel for those people because I went to school right there in Carson, right at Cal State Dominguez Hills. That's where I
Yeah.
played college baseball, and it's just up the street. So a lot of these places I'm watching on the news, and I'm seeing just this absolute devastation that's happening. And part of me grateful, right, that years ago we moved away, but at the same time, you're we're still from there, right?
Yeah,
And
it's still home. I mean, it's
not
where we go. It's where we it's
not that we have a ton of people that I still connect with. I mean, there's a lot of people that I still connect with that still live there, but not that we're keeping up and seeing them all the time. But I think about all those places and just the absolute devastation. Matter of fact, our good buddy that now lives in Bakersfield, he sent me a text a couple days ago. He took a picture on I-5 as he was driving through Burbank of the Holiday Inn, and he sent me a message, said "Blast from the past." Hey, shout out to you, Dan. Um, and I just replied this morning and said, "Yeah, I remember, right, riding my bike from North Hollywood to Burbank for my job that I had there when I was 16 years old."
we used
Um,
we used to roller
and
skate. We used to roller skate out there just to get free ice cream from Deanna and Melissa.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I remember,
Deanna and Meredith, I'm sorry.
talk, what's that?
Deanna Yates and Meredith Walsh used to give us all free ice cream at their ice cream shop.
It was awesome.
We'd roller skate all the way out there. Fun.
Yeah, no, so when we talk about Southern California, right, it's where we grew up, and so
Yep.
um, super fond, right, of the area, and it's changed a lot since we lived there, but still, I remember when I was 16 years old and I was working at the Holiday Inn. I was working in the restaurant, and I was a bus boy, but we were more than bus boys. We actually, brought beverages to the table, and the way that the restaurant in the hotel was set up is that the restaurant was on one side of the entry, and the bar was actually across from the restaurant. So they would serve. I don't remember if they served drinks or not, or alcohol in the restaurant. I think they did, but because I was 16, I couldn't serve it. But I remember one night, and I'll never forget this because I was cracking up. This guy was there from Texas. He had been across in the bar, and he had come over to the restaurant, and he was a little drunk. And I went to his table. I asked him, what do you want? What would you like to drink? I can bring you, water, iced tea, soft drinks, right? That kind of stuff. And we'll get that to you. And he was still waiting for his waitress to come to the table. And he says, I'll have a water, but I already know what I want to eat. So I need you to go tell my waitress, hey, that I want the biggest steak that she's got, and this is how I want it cooked. I want her, I want her to take that big ass steak, and all I want, he said something to the effect of, he said, just knock the horns off of it, wipe its ass, and throw it on a plate. And I was just like, what? I
Um,
looked at him and I'm like, how, so you don't want it cooked at all? He's like, nope, I want it mostly rare. So, right, knock the horns off, wipe its ass, and throw it on a plate.
who was it? Hannibal Lecter?
God, I don't know who it was, but dude was hilarious. He was wearing a hat, he
Yeah.
had a cowboy hat on, and had that Texas drawl,
Yeah.
But for a 16-year-old kid growing up in Southern California, man, I was dying. I was laughing.
So,
I had to
but
go back and tell my
that
waitress.
wasn't your first job, right? Or was it your first job?
No, that wasn't my first
I
job.
can
I
remember
think
all
my
the
first
jobs that
job.
I can remember all the jobs that you had. I was always jealous because I was the younger brother. I wanted to work and I couldn't. So I always
Dude,
did paper routes. I was
I
eager to
had
work and make
so
money because
yeah,
we had nothing if we didn't
we
make
did
money.
paper routes, right? We did paper routes.
I did them on my
Um,
bike.
yeah. So growing up, right? Our dad was a school teacher in Los Angeles. Our mom was a stay-at-home mom, and I was the oldest of six. You were number three. All right, so we got a brother in between us. We didn't know we didn't have a whole lot of money until we got to junior high, and um, you know, kids were calling us the Kmart kids because that's where we got our clothes, right?
It
We weren't
hurt.
buying
Now,
Levi's or
now I wear that as a badge of honor. Now, when we were kids, that kind of hurt. I'm like,
absolutely, it did hurt a little bit, but I think
hurt.
it made us
It
tough,
hurt. But yeah,
right?
of course.
Because it was
Yeah,
like, hey, whatever. But anyhow, we if we wanted something, we had to work for it. I remember I bought my I bought my very first surfboard before I was even old enough to drive.
yeah.
'Cause remember, we lived in the valley, so we had to take the bus, unless we had friends that drove, and it wasn't until, years later that we had friends that drove, but, I remember buying right, I bought a boogie board because I wanted to go to the beach, and I wanted to surf, and so body surfing was kind of the thing we did, and we'd jump on the bus with our boogie board and our moray fins, strapped to it, and had a backpack with a towel and maybe some sunscreen, and, we'd get to the beach and hit the water and just stay in the water all day long. And then as it got close to the end of the day, we knew we had to get on the bus at a certain time so that we could get home, before dark. But didn't have cell phones, didn't have, any of that.
I
And
could,
so here we are riding the buses on RTD, right? Rapid Transit District,
I don't think I
riding
did.
them all over
Me
the place, from the
personally,
San Fernando Valley to the beach to wherever.
I don't think I did the bus to the beach that many times. I think maybe a total of 3 at the very most.
Well, because when you got
Because
like older and you
I
started going,
remember
right,
there were
like
certain
me, I was
people
able to drive.
that would drive to the beach all the time. Okay,
Right.
here's let me name some names.
Okay.
Chris Gilson,
Yep.
Thane Whipple,
Or Michael.
Thane Whipple.
Yeah. Thane when he was
Remember
in town.
Thane would drive to the beach. Jolyn Page,
Oh
she'd always
yeah.
she'd always
Oh,
show up
now
in
I
one. She'd
I got a
always show up.
story about
Yeah, but she was awesome. I love Jolyn, but we would hang
I
out
got a
with her all
story
the
about
time,
Thane
and
and I.
she would just show up to the house, and she'd like, "Let's go to the beach." I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." you know,
Remind me to tell you a story about Thane and I when when we were on the 405 in his old Mercedes that he drove. Hey, so Thane was
had the glow
had a
plugs.
house in
Remember,
Hawaii.
you had to warm up the glow plugs before starting it.
Yeah, it was a diesel.
Yep.
But remember, I don't know if you remember or not, but and you were going to be younger, so you wouldn't have been with us. But at 14, right, I was always taking the bus. I had bought my first surfboard, and then I remember finding like an 8 foot longboard, and I don't remember if it was me that found it, or if it was Thane that found it, but we had
No,
this
I
big,
no,
just
I remember where it came from.
where'd it come from?
Wally.
Was it? Oh, it
Yeah,
was Wally.
it came from Wally.
Where did he find that though? But because we had it when I was 14.
Yeah, he had it.
So,
He's the one that brought it to the house. I remember it came from him somehow, somewhere. Man, I miss
okay.
him. I
So
wish I knew where he was.
I do too.
He was
Um,
like a seventh kid in the family. He was like a brother.
I know.
I'm to this day I miss him. I love that guy.
Yeah, I do too. I think about him all the time. I wonder where he's at. I wonder what he's doing.
Yeah.
Wonder if he's even still around. Those are things that I kind of regret. Some of the people that we didn't keep in touch with, or that we lost, contact with, because a lot of that, right, was before the internet, before cell phones, before any social media, before
Yep.
any of this.
Yep. Yep.
Like what we're doing
Yep.
right now. So it's
Yep.
hard. Um, and I wish that I would have been better in that regard. I wish I would kept in touch with some people a little bit more. So if any of you are out there, you see this and you go, "Hey, I know that dipstick that's talking right there. I grew up with that moron." Reach out. Let's reconnect. Let's find a way to kind of talk about some of the things that we used to do. Keep those memories alive, and that's really kind of what we're doing here. But I was saying earlier that if we wanted something when we were growing up, we had to work for it, right? We had to go out and mow lawns, or we had to get a paper route, or we had to do those sorts of things. So when you talk about the jobs that I had when I turned 16, when someone would actually hire you, right? You fill out an application and go get a job. My very first job was working at the United Artists Theaters in North Hollywood.
And where
And
and guess where I hung out during that time?
at the UA theaters.
You would be
So
working.
remember
I'd be late because I get
we'd
in
come
for
in,
free.
we'd sneak you in, we'd
And
sneak
sneak
you
in
into
for
other
free. It's
theaters.
funny. I still have a
Yeah,
story
no,
about that. I have a story about that.
it
You're
was
you're
fun.
looking
What was
at
it? It was like a six screen. It was a six screen theater. That was one of the first like megaplex,
the
type of
UA6.
places.
The UA6.
UA6. Yep.
So at
United
first
Artists 6.
it was the UA, and then it became Pick and Save. Remember, it turned into Pick and Save,
Yeah.
and then it became like,
But remember, so
yeah,
that part of town now
yeah,
is not even referred to as North Hollywood. It's like Valley Village,
yeah. I
right? Or
know.
something.
Yeah,
We're driving through there and I see all the signs. I'm like, Valley Village? What the heck?
it's right on Victory Boulevard,
Yeah.
Victory and Laurel Canyon,
Victory and
Laurel
is
Canyon.
it Laurel Canyon?
Yep.
Laurel Canyon and Victory is
Or
where it was.
Van Owen, Laurel Canyon,
Yeah.
that area, Van Owen and Victory, Victory, Van Owen,
Yep.
Laurel
I
Canyon. Yeah.
remember. Yeah.
Um,
But so that I worked there, and then I remember I had a job, a weekend job when I started playing baseball, right in high school, and then I remember playing American Legion. It made it a little bit harder to work, so couldn't work a regular schedule. I got a job at that lumber yard. It was right there in Sun Valley, right on the border of Sun Valley and North Hollywood. I forget what the name of it was, but I worked at that lumber yard, and I remember taking a radio and listening to was it Chargers and Cincinnati, so like in the 80s something, right, like 1980 or whatever it was, 81, 82.
a
I have to go
transistor
back and look
radio,
at the date. Huh? Yeah,
transistor radio.
little AM transistor radio,
Yeah.
and sitting out in that lumber yard on the weekend and listening to games and hanging out and listening to Dodger games on the radio. And we used to do that a lot in the backyard. That was how most of our nights were spent.
I can remember when you were working at the UA, you're adding up how much money you were making, and you're excited about making money, and you gave out a number of how much hours you're going to work and how much you're making, and you said, and that's gross. And I go, what do you mean that's gross? That's awesome. That's not gross. That's awesome. And then you go, no, you idiot. That's gross. Gross wages. I'm like, I didn't know what that meant. I'm like, that's
Gross
not gross. That's
pay.
awesome. And my first job was at Chuck E. Cheese, making $3.35 an hour. That was the minimum
Yeah,
wage.
I remember. I probably wasn't making much more than that
Yeah,
at UA, making 335. I think probably
three
right. Minimum
thirty-five an
wage was
hour.
about that.
And
And then remember when it went to three?
Mark was
Remember when
working there too, and he bought a car. He bought his first truck cash from working
Yeah,
at Chuck E. Cheese,
but
making minimum wage.
remember when the minimum wage went to 375 and we thought we had died and gone to heaven?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I didn't know. I was making minimum wage at Miller's Outpost, and I thought everything was great. You know what I mean? Like I had nice
Yeah.
clothes, stylish.
So that was another job that I had, right? So, gosh, man, I now that I think about it, I worked a whole bunch of different jobs.
Do you have any old
Um,
habits that you still have to this day from your years working at Miller's Outpost?
not
'Cause
so
I
much. I
do.
mean,
I do.
I used to. I don't so much
I'll be in
anymore.
Macy's, like following my wife around shopping, and I'm sitting there adjusting like hangers and stuff. It's ridiculous.
Oh, I'll do that kind of stuff. Yeah, I will. I'll straighten shelves. I'll straighten hangers if that's what you're talking
I
about.
mean, the
I thought
mill.
maybe you were talking about the spending habits that you
No,
developed
I'm talking about
working at
just your how
Miller
you're in a
Outpost.
store. You're in a grocery like you're in a
Oh yeah,
clothing store and you see something on the floor and you
yeah.
pick it up
No,
and you put it on a hanger and hang it up. Like or you see something
to
that's
this
not folded
day,
right and you fold it right. I'm like, what's wrong with me? Something wrong with me.
I
But
can't
that's
go
what I did
shopping
when
in
I was a
clothing
kid.
stores.
Huh?
I can't do it around the holidays.
Yeah, no, I still like the mall environment because it reminds me those times in life were actually good memories for me. I had some
Yeah,
struggles as a kid growing up, and those times in my life were were nice. So those are fun. So there's a lot
yeah,
all the good things tend to stick with me quite well. The Miller's Outpost years in the
yeah.
malls were really nice, were really good, and working
So
at the
I
Broadway
remember,
and all that. So
at Miller's Outpost, that was a job that came for me kind of after high school, I think, or did I start when I was in high school? I think I started at Miller's after high school, and that job carried me through
through
college.
college because you were
Um,
managing for Miller's
I worked.
Outpost when you were in college at the
No, it was after I was done. So yeah,
what mall
so
was it that you
right, so
worked
both
at?
of us.
What mall was it you worked at when you were in college?
It was shoot, where was that? I because I was working in North Hollywood, right, Sun Valley, and then when I went down to Dominguez Hills,
It
I
was the
transferred because I was living
was it in
in
Upland? It wasn't
Paramount
in
and North
Upland, was
Long
it?
Beach.
Was it the Upland Mall?
No, name some of the areas around Cerritos.
I'm trying to. I can't remember.
It
There's
wasn't.
it's like
It wasn't in Cerritos. It was kind of in between Cerritos
I
and
don't remember.
North Long Beach.
I don't remember.
North Long Beach and
I've
gosh,
been I've
it'll
been
come to
married. I've
me.
been married now to
Right?
my Arizona wife for 34 years.
That's awesome, man.
34 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
It'll come to
it's
me
awesome.
in terms of where I was at, but yeah, that it was a good job for me when I was in college. So, right, we played. I played college baseball in an era that's totally different than what way things are today. Um, both of us played, in high school, and then you were drafted by the Giants, and then I signed with the Giants as a free agent at
1986.
the same time.
1986.
Yeah, 1986, and then kind of an interesting story, right? That maybe I'll tell another time, but how I came to be drafted, right? David and Darren, um, you know, so D Conley, at the time that we wound up playing professional baseball, there wasn't the internet, and you had to kind of research players and that sort of thing. I was playing in college, you were in high school, and because of certain circumstances, you didn't really get a chance to play your senior year.
The first
So
half. The first half I did,
yeah,
and then yeah.
right. But played
So,
enough to get on people's radar.
well, I got on the radar when I was in 10th grade. First
Yeah,
time I got on the radar is when we went to that Phillies tryout. Remember, I kind of tore
right.
it. I tore it up. Remember that day at Brookside Park?
Yeah. Uh huh.
That put me on the radar.
Oh, I I had fond memories of Brookside Park.
Yep.
Had some good games at Brookside Park. Um, remember intentionally drilling a guy, and George Genovese, our scout, said, "Did you hit him on purpose?" I'm like, "Damn straight I did."
Yeah.
And asked me why, and said he was running his mouth and at an open base. And but anyway, that was right before we went to spring training that
Funny
year.
thing, interesting enough, I went to that Phillies tryout because I went there with you, and
Yeah,
it was after that experience is when I decided we were going to be playing baseball year round for the scouts, and so that's when it
yeah,
all started. That's
and and again, that's another thing where if we had grown up somewhere else, I don't think we would have gotten that opportunity. Growing up in Southern
we
California,
just
that
happened
was
to be right
huge.
in the baseball hotbed at the time.
We were at the right place, the right time, and we played with a lot of guys that I felt were good players. And so I feel fortunate that I had an opportunity to play professional baseball. There's a lot of guys that I played with and played against didn't get the same opportunity that we got. But at the same time, right, I know that we worked our butts off to be able
We were
to
we were we were
to
we
get
were
that.
just what how would I put it? We were obsessive about it, more so than most.
Just yeah, anytime that we could go play, we went and played, and we
And
scrapped it out and
and
just
we
competed.
didn't have parents, like paying for everything and
No,
pushing our way through. And I mean,
no, we didn't. Anything we wanted, we had to get. I mean, like if I wanted a new glove, I had to go work for it, right? I had to
yeah,
go buy my own glove. But like I was saying earlier, right? I bought my first surfboard when I was 14 years old. Went down to Val Surf, put money down on it, and then would go make payments. Right? They put it on layaway. It was just sitting in the rack. It had my name on it with a piece of tape and a sales slip. Right? And
hmm
I'd I'd ride my bike down there, ride my bike down to Val Surf, and anytime I got more money, I'd go put money on it. And once I'd paid that thing off, man, away we went. I remember I don't remember who I had go with me to pick it up, but I had to get somebody to take me in a car, right? Because I wasn't going to pedal that surfboard home on my bike. But then
Well,
A couple years later, I was 16, 16 years old or 17. I bought another board,
I'm trying to
my own.
remember
I
all the
think
I'm trying
over
to remember all the people in our
25 bucks.
lives. I'm trying to remember all the guys in our lives when we were younger. Who are the ones with cars? Who are the ones driving early? I know when you turn
Jeff
16,
Eckstein, Jeff Hansen
Jeff
had cars,
Eckstein, Hanson, and you know, for me it was John Walker. It was, you know, I'd drive
right?
with you. I mean, I remember stealing. I got a story of stealing the van, the family van, when I was 14. Me and Mark went
Well, I remember
joyriding in it.
pushing
Ford.
mom's GTO out of the driveway all the time and not starting until we got it down the street because that thing was so darn loud.
But the family van became basically the kid wagon. As soon as you turned 16, you drove us everywhere.
We
Remember
went
that was
everywhere that
I
thing.
dude, that there's so many places and things we did in that van.
I know.
We'd have that thing packed. Remember all of oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Just every year we would do the Rose Parade, spend the night. Remember playing football on the street all night long?
I do. Those were fun.
Oh my
Yeah, that
gosh.
was a lot of fun.
What great moments. What a great time to grow up
That was a
there.
lot of fun.
Such a great
Yeah,
time to
growing up
grow
in
up
Southern
there.
California was awesome. Growing up there was great. And like we said earlier, it's sad to see some of those areas just completely,
Pasadena.
torched out.
Pasadena's hit. Pasadena and Altadena. Altadena is
I
wiped out.
know, gone.
Pasadena got hit pretty hard too. And that's
It's
right over
just,
the
I
hill
know
from us.
it's hard to believe. Well, if you remember, right when we were probably in high school, the fires that came up over the ridge in Burbank, right? So the ones that burned in between like La Cañada and La Crescenta and came up over the ridge. I remember sitting at the base of the hills in Burbank because we had friends that lived there. Used to go up there all the time, right? And just watching those fires creep down and get almost to the point where they were going to be encroaching on people's houses that were right up on the top of that ridge in Burbank. That was scary. So growing up, we even saw right some fires, but nothing with the kind of devastation that we're seeing right
I
now.
can remember as a kid when there was a fire that went forever. Remember up on Mount Baldy in that area up there? And the sky was
Yeah,
orange. The sky was orange for about 2 weeks. And there was
orange.
just embers
Yeah,
falling from the sky nonstop. I can remember
yep.
going to the back. We couldn't backyard. It was the whole sky was orange, and there was like just embers just kind of slowly falling. Like it was like snow. It was like ash snow just falling to the ground. I can remember that as a kid.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
And then going to Tommy's at 2 in the morning,
Three in the
right after
morning, two in the morning, 3 in the morning.
hanging out hanging out in Westwood Village, right? Going to a midnight movie. I remember, John Walker eating a bug on the sidewalk.
Well, he was no, he was
Yeah, he ate a
he
bug
was
on the
trying to
sidewalk.
imitate what I was doing because I was kind of being a clown and
Yeah,
I was putting crickets in my mouth and spitting them out at people, and they're like, "Oh, that's
yeah.
gross."
He and
And
he
then I was
and he
getting
wound up
attention doing
spitting out.
it, and John did it.
He spit
And
out half of one.
he accidentally bit it in half.
I know. He spit out half one. If you remember, we went. I remember the
Halfway through
movie
the
too.
movie, he gets up and says,
It
"I'm
was Weird
sick."
Science.
Huh? He says,
Remember, we
"I'm
went to
sick."
see Weird Science.
Yeah,
We went to see Weird Science, and he got up in the middle of the movie and went out. And when the movie was over, we went out. We found him in the lobby, and he was sitting next to like an ashtray, and he
no,
had
the
been
ashtray
barfing
was
in it.
there. He threw up in the ashtray, and the ashtray had overflown, and there was like a fountain of puke. And then you see
He puked.
you see that bug that he had cut bit in half sitting
There was
in there. Oh my
half a
gosh,
cricket in his puke,
that was the funniest thing ever.
half of a cricket in his puke.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he missed a good movie that night.
Oh man. But no, so Thane, right? Let's talk about Thane. Right? He had that. He grew up. Part of the time he'd spend his summers in Hawaii, and so because they had a home over there, he was able to
He got his driver's
get a
license
driver's
at
license
15 or 14 or
at
15.
14.
14, yeah.
14 years old. He had a driver's
Yeah, but
license,
explain this
and
kid.
so
Explain him. Explain this kid, what he looked like at 14.
Thane was like 6'3" and 210 pounds,
And he graduated
and
from
just bigger
USC
than
he
everybody.
graduated from USC when he was 18 years old.
19.
19. Okay, 19.
Yeah, well, 18, 19, somewhere in there. I don't know. If you're listening, if you see this thing, right? If I got it wrong, you can correct me. I'm sorry. I just remember going to his graduation at USC when I was finishing my freshman year in college. He
He
was
was he
graduating.
was your best friend.
Well,
Such
yeah,
an
we
awesome
did
guy.
a
He's
lot
such
together.
what a great guy.
Yeah,
Such a great guy.
still is.
Yeah, he's
Still is a great guy.
such a great guy.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay? I had some good friends growing up. I don't see them as much as I should or would like to. Probably don't talk to them as much as I should. Um, life gets in the way, but I'm going to try this year to change my ways a little bit, spend a little bit more time, with some of those people that were important to me when I was growing up, because they all help shape kind of who we are and what we do now. And but anyway, when
Well,
we were
since we're
14 years
talking
old,
about Thane real quick, I want to shout out to his mom. I love her.
yeah, she just passed.
Yeah.
She was great.
Mary Lou.
Um,
I loved her.
anyway, yep, awesome lady.
Yep.
But when we were 14 years old, we decided that we were going to go to the beach. So here we were, right? Thane's got a car. He's got a driver's license, so he legally can be on the road. His surfboard, though, he left in Hawaii. So the only thing that he had was that 8 foot log longboard, right? That we had found. You said Wally, was the one that brought it to the house, but we had it at the house, and I remember it had been painted. Now I swear I think I got it down the street. We got it, I think, at a yard sale.
Yeah, but
I think Jim
I think
Chisholm.
Wally's the one that was like fixing it up. Wasn't
Yeah,
he
but I think
doctoring
Jim
it up?
Chisholm had it. So we patched it, and then he painted it. Remember, he painted it blue
Black
with
and
just
blue. It was
regular
like
like house
black
paint.
and blue stripe. It was like black and blue, right?
Right, it had stripes on it. I think it was
Yeah.
like blue and yellow or something. But anyway, that was a board we took. Right, I had my board,
I learned how
but
to
we didn't
surf
have a
on that
surf
board
rack.
because it was a big I only surfed on large boards when I was younger. I never
Yeah,
surfed on the
well,
small ones.
that's
I wasn't a
that's all
shredder.
that we had.
I wasn't a shredder.
That's all we had.
I surfed on the boats.
Yeah, that's all that we had though, and we didn't have a surf rack. So
Right.
we're trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to get to the beach, right? We're in this old, like, I don't know what it was, like Mercedes, diesel 180 SEL or something. Who knows, right? I don't remember what it was. It was a 4 door. That's all I remember. And we decided that we were going to take that 8 foot board and we put it through the back windows of the car. So my board it fit in the back seat because I had a shorter board, right? I had like a 6 foot board,
Yeah.
and it fit in the car. But now, how are we going to get this huge 8 foot board right onto or into the car? And we've got a little bit of a trip to go from the San Fernando Valley out to the beach, and so we had driven on surface streets, getting to the freeway. We jump on the 405. We're on the 405. We're going up over the pass, and we're coming down, approaching Sunset Boulevard. We're about ready to get off at Sunset. Well, we had taken that board. We put it through the windows. So here, right, we're driving down the freeway in this Mercedes with this 8 foot longboard sticking out of the windows on each side. We look like an airplane. We're flying down the 405 freeway with this surfboard sticking out right on each side, probably a good 2 feet on each side of the window, so it's sticking out and in other lanes, whatever. 14 years old, Thane's legal to drive. We get pulled over by a motorcycle cop, California Highway Patrol, right? Motorcycle cop, and he walks up to the car and he looks at us, and me at 14, right? I look like I was 9. And here's Thane, right? So I'm this little dude, and Thane's about 6'2" at 14, and he looks in the car and he just kind of shakes his head. He goes, "Do you have a driver's license?" And Thane actually had it out and he handed it to him, and he looks at the license and he goes, right, because it's a Hawaii license. He's looking at the license and he says, "Are you really just 14 years old?" And because Thane looked like he was older,
Yeah.
right, at the
Yeah.
time,
Yep.
but
Yep.
he's like, "Are you 14?" And then he looks at me and goes, "How old are you?" And I go, "I'm 14." He's like, "Do you have ID?" And I go, "No, I'm 14."
Yeah.
You know, like, "No, I don't have ID." And he goes, "Oh man, guys." And so we explained to him, right, what we were doing, where we were going. We're like, "Yeah, we don't have surf racks, but here's what the deal is. And Thane explains, my surfboard's in Hawaii, and this is my friends. And he just shook his head. He goes, man, okay, you guys can't do this. So let's try to find a way to make this work. So he helps us, the higher patrolman doesn't give us a ticket or anything, takes a board out of the back windows. He opens up the trunk. He slides it in the trunk. We dig through the trunk. We actually found a red T-shirt that we had. So we wrapped the T-shirt around the tail of the board, and then we grabbed some string or something else and tried to tie the trunk down. And the cop actually helped us do that. He's like, I'm not going to give you a ticket. We told him we were just getting off at Sunset, and then we'd be on surface streets. And he goes, I'm going to let you go. I'm not going to give you a ticket. He says, but I can't promise that one of my partners, right, somebody else, doesn't pull you over and give you a ticket. He goes, some of these guys are jerks. I get it, guys. I love to surf too. And so, right, we're just going to go. So to this day, that's one of those memories, right, that I have growing up, Southern California, and some of the stuff we did. I mean, all over West Los Angeles, all through the foothills, up on Topanga Boulevard. And I heard the other day that fire had actually gotten across Topanga, and it was starting to encroach up into the hills of Encino and Tarzana.
Sure did.
And so, I think about that. I just go, man, it's just it's kind of hard to believe.
Glenn's mom's house was in danger. And then last, like, got really close, and then the winds changed direction, and they got really lucky. That was the Kenneth fire in West Hills,
Yeah.
right along Victory Boulevard, out that direction. That's where her house is, and yeah, that was so they got lucky. But man, there's so much devastation. There's just, I mean, I don't think it'll ever be the same, ever. Pal-
I don't either.
Palisades will never be the same, ever.
No,
I don't see how it can be. It won't. It will never be the same. Topanga
no.
Canyon, Malibu Canyon, it's all just burnt up. It's in bad shape. Then you have all those properties right on the coast. I think the Chart
I
House.
know.
I
I've seen
think the
some
Chart House
pictures.
was
It's
burned
just
down.
really.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
We used to surf right there, just off
Yeah,
of the rocks, right below the chart
I
house, right
could be
there. We called
wrong.
it right Sunset.
Those who see this, I could be wrong, but I could have swore that it was affected. Maybe right around. I'm not sure, but yeah.
Well, I know they were talking about how everything right around Sunset Boulevard was just gone, and I'm assuming that's Sunset Boulevard coming
Oh,
down to Pacific
well,
Coast Highway.
right on the PCH. All the properties along the PCH, they gone. Right on the coast.
I know I've seen some of the
Right on the
pictures. I
shore.
haven't had time to really kind of dig into a lot of it, but it's pretty sad.
Yeah. And then we got James Dunn. He's up in Oxnard. Actually, he's in Camarillo. But yeah, when I talked to him,
The last time I saw him, he was in Ventura.
he's in Camarillo right now. He lives in Camarillo.
Okay.
But he's in that area. That's where he kind of makes his living. That's where he's lived for a lot of years. It's where he raised his family. Him and his wife, they raised their two sons there, and so they've been up there for a lot of years. Um, I want to get him. I want to get him on with us. James is a storyteller, man. People would love him. He just knows how to.
Well,
He
for
knows
our
how to
kids
tell.
and
He
for
knows
anybody
how to
that's
tell the
listening,
stories, huh?
that's what this is going to be about, right? Is getting on and telling those stories and reminiscing and having some fun doing that. Um, we could go forever. I don't want to go, too long, but I know tonight, right? We kind of rambled,
Yeah, it's
and
okay. That's
at
what
least
part of this is,
I felt like we rambled. But I think moving forward, right? If we got some things we want to talk about, then let's bring it to the table. Um, but for our kids, just to quick, and for my children, right? We grew up Southern California, North Hollywood. After Dad finished school at Utah State, and we wound up in Southern California, and that's where we were at for a good 2 decades or so. Right before as we got older, we moved away, started doing other things. Baseball for us was our thing.
I
Um,
lost
you know,
space in the house as soon as we signed and left, and we come home, and
yeah,
I no longer had a place to sleep. I had to sleep on the floor, and then I knew, okay, I was done living at home at that point, and then of course a few years went by of plugging away with baseball a little bit. He played a little longer than me, and I went on a mission, and then came home and got married to my wife. We've been married
Yeah.
forever, and we have our six beautiful
And then here you
kids.
are, right?
We have our six wonderful kids, four boys and two, or four girls and two boys, and now they've produced five grandchildren amongst the first three. So first three of our kids,
Yep.
and
And when I got married the first time, I inherited one, right? Became a
yeah,
dad and a husband all at the same time, and eventually adopted her, and then had four together, right, with my first wife, and then when I remarried, I inherited another three. So, right, I am proud to say that I'm the father of eight daughters, and those eight daughters now have, produced, will be by June, 10 grandkids, and eight of those will be boys and two girls who are just cute as buttons, and um, you know, don't regret really anything um, in my life, and just want my children to know that I am very proud. Um, was happy that I'm a dad, and glad that I can be a dad to uh, four girls that are not necessarily my biological daughters, but they're as much my daughters as they would have been if I was there the day they were born. Proud of all of them, love them absolutely to death. Got some great son-in-laws, out of the deal with my daughters have gotten married now or have families of their own. But I personally, I don't know what you're hoping to get out of this, but I want to be able to let my children and their children know who I am. I want them to see me. I want them to, hear from me. It's one thing, like I said earlier, I could write it all down, but we're in a digital age,
yeah,
so there's no
yeah,
reason
yep,
that we
yep.
can't get together and we can't do this and we can't preserve these things, right, for future generations. And at the same time, if we can have fun, right, talking about things that we used to do when we were kids and the things that we laughed about and the things we had fun with, and then talk about things that are important to us. Like you said, we both kind of have been talking lately. We've got 5-year plans, right? That 5-year plan doesn't mean that after 5 years I'm just done, because I've got a lot of life left, right? Our
Well,
dad's what, 83?
yeah,
Dad, you're
yeah,
83. You're
if,
still kicking, man. You're still going strong.
yeah, and you mentioned Dad, so I'm going to mention him real quick. Dad retired at 60, and
Yeah,
and that's how old you are now.
I know.
Dad retired at your
I
age,
know. He absolutely
and I'm
did.
3 years away from that. Less than 3 years away from that. I'm like, I'm not ready to retire at 60. I'm like, you know,
I'm not.
it's
There's
a
no
different.
way.
We'll admit a little bit. It's a different world we live. The world has changed. It's not the same as it was.
Yeah,
But I remember
but
Dad
unlike
saying,
unlike
I
my
remember
father, right? I
how
haven't
fun it
worked.
was. Real quick, I remember how fun it was once Dad retired and they moved to Overton. How fun it was to go out and hang out with him and ride quads, and that was like the most fun ever. And I remember thinking, man, I love hanging out with my dad. And he had a life. He had a motto that he'd always say. He goes, "Life begins at 60," meaning
Yeah,
he's really enjoying his retirement. And I thought to myself, I am so happy for my mom and my dad because they struggled so much to raise us in Los Angeles
yeah.
on a single income. And my goodness,
But I can honestly
hats
say
off
that
to
we
them. Hats
really
off
didn't
to them.
want
Huh?
we didn't want for anything.
We had everything we needed.
I know.
Okay. So Tim Wright had the red lines in the Diamondbacks. I had the orange Huffy. My bike went as fast as his
Hey,
did.
so speaking of the orange huffy, right? We got to tell the story.
The
So,
difference is my orange Huffy made a noise, and it would always go clank, clank,
so,
clank, clank. His
remember
was
the orange
quiet and
huffy.
nice, huh?
Remember the orange huffy, and the next time, right, that we get on, we got to tell a story about Gary and popping wheelies down the street. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I'll tell a
Okay, so
quick
we'll
story.
leave that for another.
Quick
We'll
story.
leave that for another time.
Quick story in our neighborhood. We had kids in the neighborhood that were Tim Wright was like the spoiled kid in the neighborhood. He had everything, right? He always had the new bikes. He might see this someday. He's an awesome guy. He's living a good life in Florida. Shout out to Tim. But anyways, he always had the cool stuff. And the red line bikes, the Diamondback bikes, and then as we started getting older, he was the first one in the neighborhood to have a moped. Once he had a moped, everybody wanted to have a moped. The bikes are no longer no good now. It's mopeds all around the neighborhood on mopeds, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
there was no way we can afford a moped. Everybody, all our friends, they all
No.
had mopeds, and I still wanted to hang out with all the friends, and we'd go in different places of the neighborhood. So what did we do? What did me and Gary do? We got creative. Dad showed us how to put two bikes together and make it one, where you take the front forks off of one and then put it on the back axle of
And
the
put it on the
bike.
back.
And we basically had a three
Create
wheel
a
bike that
tandem.
we had a 3 wheel bike that the two of us rode. Gary was the steer, the front guy, and I was the rear guy. So I was the muscle in the back. And so those mopeds went about 30 to 35 miles an hour. And me and Gary were riding those two orange Huffies stuck together. Well, my bike at that time was a Schwinn on the back of his. I don't know what it was. It was a
Right.
better bike by that time. So the Schwinn forks were able to be fit on the back of it, and we could literally ride that bike and keep up with the mopeds at 35 miles an hour.
Yeah.
They could
Yeah.
not. They couldn't
Well,
lose us. They could not lose us.
while you're talking about while you're talking about Gary, I'm going to share that story right now. Hey, so
Okay.
hey, girls, right? So this is my daughters and anybody else, right, that's listening. Uncle Gary, right? Uncle Gary now, you kind of laugh, right? Because he now he'll look at you and he'll say, "Don't say retarded," right?
Mm-hmm.
But Gary, growing up, so Gary's in between you and I, okay? And Gary's probably going to see this. Hey, we need to get you on here, bro. At some point in time, we're going to get you on as well. But I remember we would ride our
He's a
bikes
character.
down the
He's a
street.
character.
Remember, we'd see how far we could ride wheelies, right? So we'd pull that front wheel off the ground and we would ride that wheelie as far down the street as we could. And when you couldn't hold it anymore, you'd let it down, right? And then you go a little ways and we turn around, go back up the street, and we'd pull that
Well,
wheelie and we'd
we
ride
would have a
again. Well,
contest. We'd
we've
go
been
from
working
one
on our
corner.
bikes, remember?
We'd go from one corner to the next on the wheelie to see who could do it.
Yeah, but remember,
Yeah.
we're working on our
Yeah.
bikes. So we would take the front wheel off, we'd grease it up, you'd lube it and what have you. We'd tighten up our spokes, make sure that it was good. Even though we had a Huffy, right? We had those bright orange Huffy bikes.
I had those
Even
mag
though we
wheels.
had
I
a
didn't.
Huffy,
Yeah,
we
I
tightened
didn't.
them up. Well, one day, Gary had taken the front wheel off and he put it back on, but he didn't tighten the bolts back down. So now here he is, right, going down the street. He yanks those forks off the ground, and when the forks come off the ground, his front tire did not. So here he is riding a wheelie, going down the street, his tire rolling out in front of him. Right, you can picture this. Hey, so girls, right? My daughters and your kids, right? So imagine Uncle Gary as a kid on his Huffy bicycle, forks in the air, tire rolling in front of him, no longer on his bike. We're riding next to him, going, dude, run off the back, right? Let it go. Run off the back. Just take your feet off and right hold on to it, but run off the back. I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't hold it. I can't hold it. He's riding for another 4 or 5 houses, and then he just can't hold it anymore. And he sets it down, but he doesn't have a front tire, so his forks hit the asphalt, and he goes tumbling right ass over elbows into the street. His tire is still rolling down the street in front of him, and he now has road rash all over. It was to this day I still see that, and I laugh so stinking
Were
hard.
you there? Were you
But it
there?
was stuff like that.
Were you there the first day that Gary went skiing? First time Gary went skiing?
No, but he hit a tree, didn't he?
No, he was with Kevin. Right? Let me tell the story.
Okay.
So Gary, he gets on the ski. Gary's always pretty coordinated, right? See, he's
Yeah.
he's he's dressed up in gear that's probably going to be soaking wet by the middle of the day. Nothing was like waterproof, you know what I mean? And but he was
Right.
warm enough at first, and he's nobody he hadn't skied before, and all of a sudden, Kevin's on. he's on the hill, and he's like, he kind of stops, and all of a sudden he sees Gary go, and he goes, he's like, wow, Gary's pretty good. Yeah, I didn't know Gary could ski. And all of a sudden Gary goes, I can't stop. I can't stop. I can't stop. I can't. He's just, he gets on those skis and he just goes straight down the hill. He doesn't even know.
Straight down the hill.
Oh my gosh, he ate it so bad. It was like, I don't know how the rest of the day went, but I you should have Kevin tell that story. It's funny. He's like, he goes, man, Gary's pretty good. First time ever on skis. And he's like, I can't stop.
That's hilarious. Yeah, we've got too many stories too that we can tell about surfing and right and shout out to the Warrens, right? We got to get you guys on and we got to have some fun retelling some of those stories. So growing up, so again to our girls, right? Grew up in Southern California and North Hollywood, spent a lot of time between LA and San Diego and up and down the coast and all sorts of things. And those are things that we need to make sure we spend some time and that we get documented. And then I want to get Dad on here, and
Yeah,
Dad's got a ton of stories that he can tell.
those who listen to our stories, they better be prepared for most of them being very non-PC. Because
Yeah,
the way we're gonna
they
tell
will
them,
be
we're gonna use words that people might not like today, but I mean it's the era that we're from, and the only way we can tell the story is to tell it the way we know how to tell it. So,
right.
but
And
you know
it
what?
wasn't
Shout out to people that from the area. There's a lot of people out there from the area that we're from. So
heck, heck yes.
you know, we went to North Hollywood High School. Most of us,
Yeah. And Polly
some of us went to Poly. I went to North
kind
Hollywood
of
High
grew up,
School.
John H. Francis Polytechnic
Yeah,
and North Hollywood.
I'm NHHS, class of
Yeah.
'86. Shout out to class of '86.
Went to both.
Anyways, loved it.
So okay. Been rolling here for about an hour, 10, somewhere in that neighborhood. So probably should call it a night, and we'll plan on jumping on again, right, next week sometime. But let's consider episode one, right, of the Squirrel's Nest, kind of in the can, so to speak, right?
This is our test run.
Uh,
Test run.
yeah. And for those of you that hung on this long, we appreciate it. We know we suck. But hopefully, right, you enjoyed it, and our hope is that moving forward, that my brother, we can kind of rekindle some of the things that were important to us growing up, and we can share those with our kids and anyone else that wants to listen. I firmly believe, and I tell my students this all the time, everybody's got a story, right? You've all got a story to tell. And whether you think it's worth telling or not, um,
People want to hear your
it's probably worth
stories.
telling.
People want to hear it.
It's worth telling.
I want to hear people's
It's
stories.
worth telling.
You know,
I like watching
look,
other
one of
people.
the reasons why I'm even doing this is because I literally find myself on my phone watching videos of people just talking, and I can't figure out why I'm so interested in what they're saying. It's because they're just riffing. They're talking about, the stories of their life or what's on their mind. They're not, you know,
I I personally
people
think
out
that
there are interesting.
everybody is more fascinating than they think they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
So,
And I would love to see some of our old friends growing up that we grew up with all of a sudden come out of nowhere and start talking
well, and that's my hope,
and
right? I
find
mean, we're
us.
connected with some people on social media, and I'm going to fire this out once we get it
Not all of them are
uploaded. And
alive. Not all of them are alive, but the ones that are, man,
no, and
it's
we just lost one recently, right? A guy we knew growing up. So, unfortunately, I don't know if you know that Timothy Garrett passed.
yes. I was talking to James Dunn about it just the other day, a couple days ago. He just passed.
Yeah, and we're getting to that age, right, where people are they're not around anymore. I
And he was
mean,
only, I think
my
Tim was
kind of
only, I think Tim was only like 55.
yeah, and if you remember, what it was, probably a good, like, almost a decade ago, right? That we talked about her earlier, going to get ice cream. But Deanna, right, Yates, I grew up
Yeah,
dating her through
yeah.
most of high school, and she passed away way too young. So
That's
there's a
actually
lot of
one.
people that
That was actually one of the I went to her funeral in Burbank, and
Yeah,
yeah.
I didn't get an opportunity, but there's just there's too many opportunities that get missed and too many things that go by because we get so busy. Everybody gets busy with everything, right?
Hmm.
Right. I mean, you're right now. You're away from your family. You're right across the country because you're trying to provide for them. And I'm getting into a pretty busy part of my season coaching high school baseball. We're about a month away from tryouts, and even though it's only a 25 game season and then playoffs, right? It's 30 plus. Um, things are going to get pretty busy for me here pretty soon, but I'm going to find time every week. We're going to find time to carve this out and do the things that we need to, because if we don't,
There's something going on
before
with
you
your
know it,
microphone,
right?
Darren. There's something going on with your
Oh,
microphone.
yeah, it's my hand messing around
Yeah.
with the little dial on it. I got to not do that.
Right.
Hey, that's my nervous fidgeting. So
Right.
if those of you were hearing that kind of squeak back and forth, it was me messing around with the little dial on my mic. I've actually got a couple of other mics that are coming in the next couple of days. So the next time we get on, my audio hopefully is going to be better. Again, right? I'm geeking out and kind of trying to fine tune right some things and trying to get things to where they sound a little bit better. I know for you, right? You've got some equipment that you've taken with you on the road, and it's
Yeah,
it's pretty simple.
courtesy of you. I wouldn't have this if it wasn't for you. So
Yeah, that's okay though, right? I wanted to be able to get you on. I want to be able to talk to you. So if there's anything else that I can send your way, I will. When I get these new mics, the mic that I have right now might be coming your way. So right,
okay.
stay tuned. But um, I want to do this so that uh, so we can, one, make sure we stay connected, and hopefully this will be an opportunity for outreach to some of the people that we know, and we can go from there. So anyway,
Yeah. Hope my kids see this. I love all of you. I want to get you guys on and let's have some conversation.
okay,
My kids are interesting as heck. They got a lot going on in their lives.
so are mine.
Yeah.
And my wife and I were talking the
And the
other
great
day, and
news, our kids all love each other, by the way. We have a very close, strong family. All our kids, they love each
100%.
other.
But here's what I'm going to end on. Okay, um, I feel really fortunate because I don't have any ugly children.
Yeah, no, no.
None.
Yeah.
I got no ugly kids.
We have no ugly kids. But you
I
know
got
what?
no ugly kids.
Shame on us for saying that.
I don't have any ugly kids.
We'll edit that.
I don't
We'll
know how
edit
that
that out.
happened.
We'll edit that
I,
out.
I don't know how that happened, but I don't have any ugly kids. Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, I love you, bro.
The retarded part, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
That's from
know.
me.
Yeah. Um, Stay safe out there on the road while you're doing what you're doing, and
Yes.
we'll find time to reconnect.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
All right. Take care.
See you, man. Hey, to everybody out there, thanks for hanging on. Love y'all. Squirrel's Nest, right? Come find a spot. Join us.